Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon from beautiful Galata Port in Istanbul, where we have been today holding the MedCruise Professional Development Course 2022. And we were the whole day talking about basic concept of environmental aspects in cruise traffic. Hello, everybody, and hello also to the dear audience. 30 people have been coming around from all Medport seas, Mediterranean, Black Sea, and Adriatic seas. We have here people from Portugal, so be very welcome again. And of course, welcome to our three distinguished panelists. And I will begin right away with Miguel, who has been our lecturer for all the days. Miguel, you are a little bit tired, isn't it?
No, I'm fine.
No, you're fine. Okay, let me introduce for the audience back at home Miguel. Miguel is PhD in Naval and Ocean Engineering, and as well MCS in Naval Architecture and Maritime Engineering, both at the University of Politecnica of Madrid, and MA in Maritime Law and Shipping. Well, he's a real expert in all of that, and important for the topic as well that we were treating today. He's currently one of the negotiators at IMO on IMO GHG policy and at the EU Fit for 55 in maritime domain, representing Spain. So hello, Miguel.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon.
And back at home in Sardinia, we have dear BOD, MedCruise BOD member Valeria Mangiarotti. Ciao, Valeria. Hello.
Hi, hello, hi.
Hi, Valeria. Valeria is actually the marketing manager at Port Network Authority of Sardinian Sea. And as I mentioned, she is the BOD member responsible for technical and environmental issues at MedCruise, at our beloved associations. For training, Valeria is a lawyer and specialized in environmental issues. And recently, she has been appointed president on the Cruise and Ferry Port Network of the European Seaport Organization. Congratulations again, Valeria.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And in Oslo with snow, she just told us in the technical rehearsal of this streaming, we have Heidi Nielsen. Hi, Heidi.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Briefly, I introduce you also to Heidi. Heidi is the environmental manager of the Port of Oslo, and she leads the Committee for Sustainable Development as well as in European Ports Organization, ESPO. So we have two presidents of the two committees, Sustainability and Cruise and Ferry. We are very lucky. So, and I will beginning right away with you, Heidi. And I don't tell a lot more about Heidi because she will tell us for herself. So, Heidi, we have been talking all the day about basic concepts. Miguel has given us definitions of a lot of things. And I was just wondering, do you remember your beginnings? Do you remember when you started to work on sustainability and then more specific on cruise sustainability? Do you remember? Tell us a little bit.
Well, my first day at the Port of Oslo as the head of management for environment, I was the first task I got was, what do we do about this international standard for onshore power system? That was the first question I got. That's 10 years ago. So when I came to the Port of Oslo, we were ISO 14001, so it was sort of implemented in all parts of the port, but we didn't include our customers as much as I saw the potential. So looking for the ambitious customers and the visionaries, and finding those who can do things together with you and increase your knowledge through dialogue with them. That was the beginning. I knew nothing about ports, I knew nothing about cruise ships. We all have to start somewhere. Just jump into it.
Okay, so precisely that's why at MedCruise we thought about this topic, because you said it right, dear Heidi. Somewhere you have to start, and it's good to see that an expert as you also did start somewhere. So Valeria, the same question from another angle. You are the BOD member for at MedCruise for technical sustainability issues, so you know a lot about that. But what this topic more appeals to you personally? Because once you decided as a lawyer, I want to go into sustainability, and then also another question: you are at Sardinian Ports, you are the marketing manager, but do you handle also with sustainability yourself, or do you have another department that assists you? Tell us.
Yes, good morning. I think that I started to study the environmental issue because several years ago I had to approach to the environmental sector. And the first one was a technical, because in my mind as a lawyer, I would like to know only the European law, because I started with international law in my career, like in the legal office. And I wanted to know which is the law we need to apply in order to manage the environmental in the cruise ports in the second step. But this is, first of all, was a technical approach, first of all, at the beginning, more or less 10 years ago. And then the second approach was only like psychological, because I was wondering how it was really possible to do something in a serious way to protect the environment in the port, in the sea. So it was another situation. So two approaches, one technical and one psychological. In the Sardinian ports, I'm marketing manager, but also I'm involved in the environmental issue. And I'm responsible of the environmental plan of Sardinian ports, because you know that Italian law provides that every year the port authority must make a strategic environmental plan. So I'm involved also in this plan. I think it's a strategic to have an environmental plan and vision of the ports. But at the end of the day, I think that the second approach was more interesting for me, because in my life, the environment is very important. It's a topic.
I think we have seen that today as well here at our PDC here in Galata Port, Istanbul, because our lecture was really passionate about that. And I think when you are getting in touch with sustainability in the cruise industry, at the end you got passionate, because it's such a complex topic. So Miguel, we have invited you because you are a really great expert on that, and you have a long career dedicated to this. And right away, after this whole long day with a lot of definitions, a lot of laws, if you had to give us an advice here in the audience, but also back at home, how shall we familiarize ourselves with these topics? And among all what is going on, what is the most important topic for you now, today, 2022, for you as a technical sustainability expert?
Well, good afternoon, everyone, again. When I have to consider the issue of sustainability, myself or anyone, I think you need to take about a personal reflection about the basic three pillars, which are the social, economic, and environmental aspect. And you have to do yourself an exercise to be able to put everything together and see how the interest can be combined one to each other, and see how they work. How there are times that economy goes against the environment and goes against social or pro-social, and how you can make everything turnaround to give a complete different vision of it. And once you have this personal reflection, I think you can maybe consider be critical and develop your own ideas on how sustainability need to be developing, listen from the others, and so. In my area, my expertise or my personal opinion about how dealing with sustainability in the cruise market sector, there are two topics that I like the most.
Two topics, tell us.
Yeah, which are plastic litter. Valeria, I was with Valeria and you like 3 years ago talking about this the plastic pollution, and the other one that interests me a lot is sewage. From there, you go into greenhouse gases, but these are the ones that are kind of old. They have been there for a long time, and they need a lot of reflection in order to improve them, because there is a lot of margin of improvement on all of them. Today, we have been talking about greenhouse gases. That's another one. That's the one that is kind of in fashion now due to the climate urgency. But we cannot forget about the other two, and that are for me kind of the ones that where I would focus the most if I have to consider them from the cruise ship industry point of view.
So from your point of view, Med Cruise members should focus for learning sewage and plastic, but the influencer is real greenhouse. Huh? And Valeria, what do you think? Do you agree with our expert?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the plastic-free is the topic. We know very well that in Med Cruise we have a project with the WWF about plastic-free. We are working when we start for all members of Med Cruise in January 2023. And so this is a very it's a topic for all ports in the Mediterranean Sea, but all ports in Europe, in the world. And the second one, for me, we have two elements. One element is about the law, like a lawyer. We have two issues. One about the uniformity of regulation that we have in our ports. Sometimes we don't have uniformity between the European and the national law. And the second issue is about the time, because you know very well that when we have a European directive, sometimes the national law is not immediately implemented from the European state. And this is a two issue for me. But for environmental aspect, definitely, obviously, and for me, LNG and OPS. So to find a reduction of emission, because you know very well that 455 will provide that in 2030 we will have the carbon emission of 50%, and 2050 we will have a 90 almost 0% of the carbon emission of the GHG. So the Port Authority started to understand that if it's better to follow the LNG bunkering or OPS. We have a big discussion also in Italy about it, and the ID is the president of the environmental committee of ESCO, and Heidi knows very well the situation. Nowadays, we have the regulation of the European Parliament and of the Council, and it was introduced in July 2021, and the regulation repealing Directive 2014 number 94 is about OPS LNG. Now there is a big discussion in that community, so we are working.
Yes, indeed. I think also what we have been spoken today is how difficult the regulatory framework is, because we don't have to forget we are Med Cruise, not only European ports, we have ports from all parts as well, and this combining the international with the national laws, as you say, Valeria, is very important. So let's see what's happening in Norway, and that is why we also invited Heidi. Heidi, can you tell us, please, the 3 most important sustainability issues that you have been done in Norway, or in specific in the port of Oslo?
I can agree with my sustainability colleagues that greenhouse gases and the climate change issues is top one. Making sure, and the good thing, something that you said, Miguel, about trying, when you find some measures that you can actually reduce the impacts from several environmental issues, like for shore power, you can reduce the carbon emissions, but you can also reduce the air emissions. In regard to invasive species that are underneath the hull of the large ships, if they clean the hull more often, you reduce the possibility to have more unfriendly species in your port basin. And at the same time, you have less friction, you use less fuel, and you have lower emissions by sailing. So in many cases, some of the environmental issues you can address several of them at the same time. So for me, I would say the top 3 is climate change. I think we need to take better care of our oceans, both in regard to plastic and waste, but also invasive species that change the ecosystems. And the third, I think what people feel the most in regard to ships is air emissions. So that's my top 3.
That's your top 3, and I would like to go a little bit deep in one of those. You can choose which one. What is from the one you said, what is the most important achievement, and why did you achieve it? And by the way, you can also tell us if something didn't go so well, if you want to, because we are here from learning. It's a professional development course, and you have a lot of expertise. Can you tell us a little bit what is the most important thing?
You're asking me?
Yes.
I would also like to touch upon sewage that you mentioned from the ships. In the port of Oslo, we have a system where the ships can connect, and the sewage comes into the sewage system in the city. And in that regard, it produces biogas that you can use for transport. So that's a good way of actually using a waste and circulating it into something useful. But then you have to have good cooperation between the ships and the city, because the city needs to be assured that there's not dangerous things put into the sewage, that they don't want things that can ruin the process at the other end. So dialogue and communication is always important. Also to learn and educate yourself by finding people that know things that you don't. Learn by asking stupid questions and trying to dig into what's actually happening. Things that have not gone well. Well, we did have an incident on the quay in regard to sewage. That was no fun. We had some good cooperation with, so we handled it quite well. But there's always a risk. But then risk, if you look at risk, there's always an opportunity to fail. But there's always an opportunity to do something really, really great also. So don't think about risk as something dangerous, but more as an opportunity, and be optimistic and look for solutions.
Was it difficult to bring all the different stakeholders on the table in Norway?
In regard to the cruise lines, I've seen a really great improvement, I would say, the past 5 years. They realized that Norway decided to have local regulations in regard to our World Heritage fjords. So they thought that for some time, I think the cruise lines suspected that it's only international law that we abide by. But the Norwegian authorities challenged that and decided for themselves to have local regulations, and that shifted the mindset of the CEO in some of the really large cruise companies. So they invited us to discuss and see what one could do together, because none of the cruise lines want to come into a city when they're not welcome. So they wanted to change that, and they decided that we need to do things differently. So we've seen a really positive improvement, I think, and it's a mind shift from the cruise lines administration and CEO, I would say.
That's an encouraging message. Miguel, do you want to add something on that? Because you mentioned that today, the importance of bringing together the industry, the regulators, the destinations, the shipping line support for find common solution. What do you think?
I fully agree that if we want to become circular in a way, we need to bring everyone on top of the table. So since cruise ships are providing money to the tourism industries, to the ports, but they are also bringing some elements on board, some issues that have to be discharged, such as garbage or whatever. There are many possibilities where you can develop such solutions to become circular in a way, whereby you balance the economy with environmental, as you very well said, you automatically turn something bad into something good. There is an opportunity in something that finds that is a problem. Today I spoke about recycling of a ship, whereby recycling of a ship is a problem in the European Union because of the heavy regulations, but at the same time, the value of the recycled material that you find on a cruise ship is immense now. And with the scarcity of resources that we may be facing in the next coming years, providing second life to everything that is on board the ship becomes automatically an opportunity and a solution to improve. There are many things that you can do with that we provide economic resources from cruise into a ship. The thing is how to make it right and how to make it work, to bring everybody in line when making a tour in a city, how a cruise ship is going to impact the environmental elements of the port, the waters, and so. So you have to put everything in balance. But as I mentioned today, when we are talking about bio issues, it is so difficult. There is an element of difficulty to turn things right, because you might have a good spirit to do something, but the other stakeholders might not think the same as you. So you have to be very ultra constructive. Otherwise, you fail. So that's how it works. But yeah, everybody has to be, in theory, everybody has to be on the same page. However, there are times that we are not on the same page. That's the problem.
Before we come to the regulatory framework with Valeria, again to Heidi, how about your destination? I mean, Med Cruise is a port and associate members association. We are the port and destination part. So how was it in Norway or in Oslo bringing the destination into all these aspects? Because it's not always easy, as we see in many Med Cruise ports.
No, true. And in Norway, we have many different ports along our very long coast. And there are different ways of organizing this in different port cities. We used to have more focus of it in the port, but we joined forces with a structure that's called Visit Oslo, which is the tourist information, and they work with tourism in general for the whole city, and they have one person there that's really up to date on the cruise as well. So she sort of implements that into all the other marketing and the other issues that they address regarding tourism in our city. So I think that's a good thing, that it's not a person in the port, but it's actually part of the city who knows the city well and knows the tourist industry. So she's sort of gathers different actors and addresses some of the issues that the cruise lines ask for. But we also see a shift in not all cruise passengers want bus rides. They have their own bikes on the ships, and there are also city bikes. And in the Port of Oslo, you come straight into the city center, so it's very close to the opera and the museums, and it's walking distance. So perhaps in the future they will choose other ways to handle that, but that probably needs some maturing within the cruise lines of how they want to organize that in the different ports, because they earn money on this part of the cruising. So I'm not sure how that's best, but in cooperation with the city, I think it's important.
Okay, and Valeria, all this has to do a lot with the regulatory framework, and we know that you are an expert in that. Focusing on today, from your point of view, what is the most important issue going today, November 2022, on international and European regulatory bodies? What's the influencer about among all these topics right away?
Very good question. In any case, I think that for me, first of all, it's necessary to build the integrated policy between cruises company and port authority. The focus in this period, for me, is to understand that the IMO regulation is very strict for the ports, because 2030 is tomorrow. It's not, and it's necessary to start to work in this way. So probably LNG could be a bridge solution, but now for geopolitical situation that we have, unfortunately, it's a little bit tricky. Why? Because the price of gas is, for example, in 2022 is 7 times more than 2021, for example. And on the other hand, we have also OPS solution. And for example, Italian ports received a lot of money, millions of euros from the European community. But the problem is that, okay, we can start to build the infrastructure for OPS, but it's necessary that the cruise line started to build a lot of cruises. We know, for example, PDC started to build cruises on a sea, for example. But it's necessary to understand if it's a little bit egg and because we understand that, okay, we start to build the LPS, but how is the situation for cruise lines? And then I think it's really also important that nowadays the environmental situation of the ports could be a strategic element for cruise line, because the cruise line could decide to go in a port if, for example, there is LNG bunkering. For example, we can think about Costa Smeralda. Costa Smeralda started in the Mediterranean Sea in 2019. At the beginning, Costa Smeralda decided to start in Barcelona, because Barcelona was the only port with LNG supply. And in the second moment, we had also a space in Italy. So integrated policy about OPS, about LNG with all port authority and cruise liners. And then, unfortunately, the situation that we have very difficult geopolitical situation could be very important also for us.
Yes, indeed, it is a little bit the crystal ball, and we have seen that today as well during our PDC. It's quite tricky to see because everything has to do also with money, Miguel, and who has to invest? I mean, again, we are ports and associates member of MedCruise, and then we have the shipping lines, and then we have the regulatory bodies. So what's going on there? What's the most important and tricky thing? What is your experience?
That's difficult. If I have to choose one problem, for me is the idea of not shifting the problem. We have spoken today about it. I don't like shifting the problems from one place to the other. So by being aggressive on a regulatory framework for cruise ships, we have to be able to tackle that in a sustainable manner. We cannot shift greenhouse gases from, for example, a ship towards a land-based industry in order to be able to get, for the sake of having electricity for a ship and without using the fuel engines, just having a supply of electricity that is not coming from green sources. That would make things even worse than it is now. And this is where the ports become crucial because we are not now in a place to take quick decisions. We are in a curve of decarbonization that is ultra steep, that we don't have the available technology as of today. We might have it maybe in 2030 to decarbonize fully decarbonize shipping. And you need to decarbonize your ship by having the ports. Otherwise, it seems it's not possible. And the ports have to be able to provide green solutions to the ships because this is how it is today. Otherwise, we would be maybe sailing by wind and then making a very romantic cruise by using power from the wind, which would be ultra sustainable because that is ultra zero emissions. And in the meantime, you charge your batteries, as I mentioned in the training. So, but this is not for tomorrow. The 2030 is, as Valeria said, is the day after, is just now. Deploying all these measures without having the right support from the ports is going to be impossible, but we need to find green electricity somewhere.
That's a good point for Norway, because we were been talking, Heidi, and somehow Norway has a privileged position with
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about.
We're lucky in the regard that we have a lot of hydropower from water sources. So the electricity in much of Norway is already green. So I can understand the challenge that many different countries face now. But I choose to look at it like Winston Churchill, who was the Prime Minister in the UK, in the United Kingdom, England, during the Second World War. He said, "Never let a good crisis go to waste."
Okay.
What we see now is that when Russia stopped deliver gas, natural gas to Europe, the German facilities for renewables are increasing much faster than anticipated. So there is an opportunity in every crisis, and some countries choose to fulfill the opportunity. And I think there has to be an interface. The cruise lines will definitely say, we will not connect unless you can guarantee that it's green energy that we connect to. That will be their policy. However, one can answer that question by saying today it's not But the plan for the future, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, is so much percent will be renewable. But that means that the country itself, the deliverer, need to work on the whole energy supply chain. We can't wait. There is no time to change the system, everything at once. We have to start somewhere. And even though the natural gas can be converted to methanol, to ammonia, you can use carbon capture. There are different ways of getting to zero. And our experience is that the shipping companies are looking ahead, but they're also saying, if you don't regulate us rigidly, we will postpone the change. So the EU needs to be fast and firm, use the whip, and the ports can say, by 2024, in the Port of Oslo, we will build shore power for cruise. And we don't, to be honest, we don't have a choice. If cruise wants to come to Oslo, they need to connect. It's a demand from the city. Either you connect or you go away. It's either you exist or you don't. So, and that is in many different Norwegian cities. So that's the framework, even though it's not international regulated yet, but it will be regulated by 2030 in the EU. In the heritage fjords in Norway, it will be zero emission sailing in and out by 2026. So the regulation is coming. So it's up to the shipping lines to decide. And when the ports have the facilities, they can say, okay, you can choose to connect, or you can not connect. You will not do the conversion on your ship, but then you'll have to pay more. And that's due to the principle that polluter pays. If you don't connect, that's fine, but you pay more. And if that amount of paying more becomes larger in 5 years than actually converting the ship, then it's a business case for the cruise lines. So it's both the whip and the carrot.
Valeria, as BOD member of MedCruise, again, it's not only European Union, and not every port has this possibility to invest such much money. What is your thoughts about what is saying on Heidi?
Francesca, I completely agree with you. So the situation of Heidi, the situation of Norway is completely different from the rest of Europe, because, for example, in our association, we have a small ports. When you receive one cruise in a month, is it necessary to build an OPS? I don't know, probably not. First question. Second question, the situation that we have for renewable energy in our European ports and the Mediterranean is different. You can consider, you know very well, that one cruise after say 6 or 8 hours consume more or less more than 40 kilowatts. Megawatts. That means that if you have, for example, city director, Barcelona, 4 or 5 cruises in a day with 30,000 people, it's necessary to have a big amount of energy. And the question is it green energy or not? Other question. So it's not, and then the last but not least, like a market manager and portfolio, also like a lawyer, I can say that, for example, in Italy, who can sell the energy in the port authority? Because we are a public company, so it's necessary to make a public tender to decide a concessionaire that can sell the energy. And the cost of energy is very high in the Mediterranean Sea. So we have a lot of things. That means that in Europe, we have a different situation. So it's a picture, not beautiful picture, but it's a real picture that we have.
Indeed, and Miguel, you as IMO expert, so going far away, not only Europe, what is your point on that?
on how the IMO has to develop? Or?
Yeah, well, as well. No, we have here the example of Norway, which has done a lot. They have also other circumstances. Lucky you, Heidi, and congrats, by the way. Then we have Med cruise, the Mediterranean and joining seas with very different specific, we are so diverse and specific situations, big port, medium-sized ports, small ports, and then we have the world because cruise industry is worldwide. So as we have an expert here, tell us your thoughts about that.
Well, my thoughts are that we really don't need to enforce tough regulations with being able to collect enough money to be able to develop solutions to decarbonize shipping. That's fine. It cannot be turned into a money-making machine. So whenever you are getting money to be able to invest, you have to be able to have the technology for a proper investment. And the point is that now we are kind of running out of time if we want to meet the Paris Agreement. So we have like a one shot. We could have been failing in the year 2005 or 2010. No problem. We have maybe 2 or 3 bullets. Now we only have 1 bullet. And we have to make it right. But the technology is not fully there to be able to change by tomorrow. So when you look at it and you see how even with Fit for 55, we are not going to meet the Paris Agreement goals, it's not there. We are not there with Fit for 55. And you try to extrapolate into the IMO, where, as I have mentioned today, the interests are maybe different. At the level of the European Union, we may all have a common high ambition, which is fine, to be able to trigger change, at least in our waters, in our ports. But the problem of shipping is that it's a world industry. So if you push heavily for decarbonizing in your area, you might be also losing business. So that sustainability, which is environmental sustainability, okay, might be economical sustainability not going okay, unless your industry is automatically developing this technology to be able to compensate with each other. And we might be seeing destinations, not in cruise ship, because I haven't studied the market, but we might see carbon leakages, whereby due to heavy taxes, I'm going to say something, just an example. Let's think out of the blue. I might start considering not cruising in the European Union, even if it is a beautiful place to cruise, because I might be going to another country, other non-European countries in the Mediterranean, and pay much less, because I'm not going to pay any emission rights. I'm not going to pay any fuel tax. I'm not going to pay any fuel EU measures. And then things start completely getting imbalanced, because the air emissions will be also beside you. So you will get greenhouse emissions from the cruise shipping industry, not calling you ports, but they are just in front of you. And so that's a problem that is also requires a different perspective when you're looking at it as a Mediterranean country, where you have neighbor countries that will not be bound by so very strong regulations. And when you look at it from a different perspective in the north of Europe, that is either north of Europe or nothing. So it is very difficult, and you have to make it right. But I fully agree that we have an ambition. So how do we have, and I'm going to mention the EU, although some of you here are not from the EU, how are we bringing those non-EU countries on board? This is the IMO. Will the IMO be able to develop as ambitious targets as the IMO is going to develop? I wish we could do so. I am a little bit pessimistic, but of course, it would be fantastic for me that next year in July 2023, when we have the next strategy is net zero by 2050. For me, it would be amazing. but we also have to be realistic. Let's be realistic.
I think it's a good point. Let's be realistic, and that gives me also just a moment, because I think we are running out of time, a closing remark. That's why we need associations like MedCruise, because we bring together different countries, different parts of the Mediterranean and then joining seas, and we have to push and help the industry to somehow find the best solution. So the very end question to all of you, very quick, optimistic or pessimistic? Heidi.
I am always optimistic, and I would ask each and every person who's in the room to think, find that cruise line in your port that is ambitious, that
Thanks.
wants to move forward. Find that cruise line and start a dialogue. You will learn so much, and I'm sure that you can find solutions together. And also, point two, cooperate with your city.
That's what we need.
Fine,
We
okay.
are port and associates member. We have also destinations in MedCruise. Valeria, very quick for you, pessimistic or optimistic in this case?
In the middle.
In the middle?
No, because, okay, more optimistic, of course, because the issue of our association is to work together with the municipality, with the territory. The communication is one element of sustainability. So for the future, we have to work together, absolutely, and to find a solution for all ports, small ports, big ports.
Okay, Miguel, we have been listening to you all the day. Shall I dare that you are also in the middle? Optimistic, pessimistic?
I am also in the middle, but I have a colleague of mine in Brussels, who is the representative of Spain in Brussels, and he always tells me, ambitious but realistic.
That's a good closing sentence. We are MedCruise. We are definitely realistic, but with an optimistic mood. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining PDC 2022 from beautiful Galata Port in Istanbul. Thanks for joining. Bye-bye. Bye, ladies.
Bye.
Bye-bye.